The cost of doing nothing is not nothing. The cost of cleanups are extensive. The cost of master leasing motels is expensive. Master leasing is cheaper than those activities. And you're getting people permanently housed. And so if you don't want to see some of the growth of encampments and things on your community streets, then this is something that they should engage, a conversation that they should engage in.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Rachel Pearsall. I'm the Director of Online Learning at the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And I have with me here today Chris Freed, who we've worked with quite a bit and who is one of the partners at the Impact Group. Chris, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here with you today. My name is Chris Freed, and I've been in this work, working in the homelessness sector for nearly 3 decades, 28 years. I am from Los Angeles, California, and have worked in one of the largest systems of care throughout Los Angeles County, primarily as a provider for 23 years of my career. And most recently, a few years ago, entered into the consultant sector, to work with lots of communities across the country on various different topics, but primarily all around housing acquisition strategies and general program topics, as well as really focused on doing work around encampment to home and strategies that really lead to people that are experiencing homelessness to get into housing as quickly as possible.
And one of those housing acquisition strategies is the thing that we want to talk about today, which is master leasing. And where it comes into play is homeless response organizations are working to help people who are experiencing homelessness to get back into housing and to achieve stability. But to do that, homeless response organizations have to have access to housing units. And that is really hard sometimes. Rents are going through the roof. Sometimes organizations spend a lot of time trying to recruit and get connected with landlords. That's a really resource that takes a lot of resources. And so master leasing can help with some of that. So to start with, Chris, what is master leasing? What's the definition?
I mean, I'm going to give you my definition. It might not be the textbook definition, but essentially it is a strategy where an owner subleases to a tenant, and then that tenant subleases to other tenants. And so it's just a third-party lease where a person or a program can go in, directly engage with the owner, and then sublease to its clients or sublease to other people.
And let's talk about the name for a second. The word master leasing might strike some people as a strange thing to choose to call it. That we're using that phrase in this video because that is broadly what it's called within homeless response and within the real estate industry. And we want people to be able to find this video if they're looking for master leasing strategies. Do you want to speak to the name at all?
So as you stated, I've always known it as master leasing as well. But certainly with what's happening in our world, in Los Angeles, we had some conversation with community members, particularly folks of color in our community, to say, should we change the name? And to your point, because it's so widely understood and known as master leasing, folks in our community chose to leave the name as is.
So what are some of the benefits for a homeless response organization or a homeless response like system in a local community to engage in master leasing? Why might they want to?
Primarily to be able to generate units at a faster pace. As we're working with our clients, one client at a time, we're out in community engaging in conversations with landlords that are willing, or property owners that are willing to partner with us for various different programs, for permanent supportive housing via Section 8 vouchers or continuum of care funds, rapid rehousing dollars, other strategies as well, like transitional housing in the older days. But most currently, we've hit kind of a roadblock with bringing on the number of landlords or property owners that we need in order to get people housed more quickly. And so from my perspective, the desire to do that is because we can move with a greater sense of urgency and really truly get people in and remove the barriers that previously existed for them to get in. So things like evictions or a lack of income or a lack of 3 times the income, lack of employment, poor credit, all of those things are mitigated when we have master leasing in place, because we are no longer taking one person at a time to a property owner or to a property management firm or to a landowner and saying, hey, will you rent to this person? Rather, we can acquire those units very quickly through our programs or through our communities. And then we have the ability to work with our folks that maybe have some of those backgrounds that have made it harder for them to get into housing and more quickly get them connected to those units.
Are there some pitfalls that are potential with master leasing? And if so, what can organizations do to avoid those?
I mean, there's risk. There's always going to be risk involved, right? The risks that are involved typically for a program to do it is one, that our funding tends to be annual. And when we're engaging with property owners, they typically want a longer period than 1 year at a time for an agreement. Second, organizations are required to have their own insurance. If there's damage in any particular unit that's significant that needs to file an insurance claim, it can create a major barrier for an organization to file that claim, because on the back end, it could increase the insurance premiums. Typically, our funders do not increase annually. The cost of our insurance are not represented in those annual contracts. And so because of that, there's potential, if there was a significant damage or a significant issue in one of those units, it could really create an opportunity for an insurance company to cancel the policy. And if they cancel the policy by virtue, it would be really problematic for an organization to be able to acquire new insurance to be able to maintain their government contracts. So there are risks that are inherently built in or baked in to taking these units. Other risks are, right, our program dollars don't necessarily give us 100% of the rents every year. Or if they do, there is the understanding that at some point in many of those units that the clients will take over, if not the entire rent, a portion of the rent. If our clients are unable to make that portion of rent, then the organizations have to cover what that portion is. And that is also a risk that agencies have incurred over the years while they've engaged in master leasing type relationships. With all of that said, organizations have been doing this for years. It preceded me, right? In the 80s, they started these activities, maybe even before that, but certainly within the 80s. I've had this conversation with some folks and they said it existed in the 80s. So I'm going to go with that. And so when we started revisiting looking at master leasing in Los Angeles in like 2019, 2020, at the beginning of COVID, we started talking about it before COVID started, but then really started engaging in the conversations once COVID hit us, because we were scrambling looking for how are we going to be able to bring on the number of units that we needed to support people as they were transitioning out of the hotels that we were moving them into. And so through that process, we really started working with our local government to say, we understand that government tends to be super risk adverse, but also it's really, really difficult to ask the nonprofit providers to continue to take on all that risk without having the backing. So there was a couple of different suggestions that were made. One is that, and this is specific to Los Angeles, but one is that could our funders engage in longer term agreements with the nonprofits with guaranteed funding? So could we have contracts that were guaranteed for up to 3 years, maybe up to 5 years, so that we can engage in longer term agreements with property owners? The second was, and just as importantly, was, and if our insurance goes up, would they cover the costs of those insurance realities for us? And or would they cover the cost of all the damages so that the claims didn't need to be filed? So those were some of the early conversations. And if they weren't, would it be possible for our governmental agencies to actually enter into those agreements to mitigate the risk completely to the nonprofit sector, so that if they signed the leases, by virtue, they were taking on the risk and allowing the providers then to just do what the providers do best, which is to get people housed and then to provide the services to them once they were housed. And it took a while in Los Angeles, but at the end of 2023, entering into 2024, the County of Los Angeles, in partnership with the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, said yes and started engaging in those and these types of activities. And throughout 2024, we were able to bring on 772 units of master leased units that we were able to go directly into encampments and offer up housing to people in encampments to truly move them through the system very quickly.